This is Markin Out. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. Follow on Twitter. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. Marking Out. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. Brennan likes fisting. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. We're marking out. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans.
Welcome to Markin Out, Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. This is episode 701. Make sure that you are checking us out at markinout.com, giving us a listen, and also a 5-star rating over on Apple Podcasts, over on Spotify, over on iHeartRadio, and wherever else you may be listening to your podcast. Make sure you're also sharing it with your friends. Buy a t-shirt over at prowrestlingtees.com/markinout. Give us a like over on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at markinout. Follow us on Instagram at markinout11. Then jump back on over to TikTok and give us a follow at markinout. And then go subscribe to us over on YouTube. But that being said, I am one of your hosts. I am Dave the Rave. And you can check me out on all social media platforms at DavidPTDPT. I am here with Brandon. Follow him at BTTG161. But also go follow Chris at Chris Sweendog over on Twitter and CMSweeney85 over on Instagram. But as I said before, I am here with Brandon at the current time. Brandon, how are you?
I am doing awesome as always. How about yourself?
Fan-freaking-tastic. It's hot.
Yeah.
How are you dealing with the heat this week?
The AC, what do you mean?
Nice. AC rocks.
It's crazy. First of all, I got to say I'm glad that my neighbors were lighting off fireworks on July 4th. So I was at least able to see some up close. But I also don't know how they were outside lighting off fireworks because it was so muggy.
It was.
So humid. So that aspect does suck. I also did grill some burgers this week, which they weren't great. They could have been better. They were disappointing. My temperature gauge on my grill is broken right now.
Oh, no.
So I couldn't get the actual temperature that I needed. So I couldn't gauge it properly. And I didn't have the right seasoning. Everything was a mess, so... But that's really... How about yourself? What'd you do?
Not too much. Did get to see some fireworks lit off around the community, which was very nice, very beautiful. I always do love the 4th of July. Takes me back to the times where my grandparents used to have little gatherings, and we would watch the fireworks display taking place at Jones Beach, and usually across the bay in Balmore. And it's always special. I always do love the 4th of July. But something that I also loved was the pay-per-view that took place.
Wait, I don't want to talk about the PLE yet. You had something huge happen to you over July 4th. You went on a historical walking tour of Manhattan.
Yes, I
need to know everything about that.
I totally forgot about that. I did. I went on, I think it's the, I forgot what it was, like the Onion tours. And me and my parents actually did a tour. It was a Revolutionary War tour of the downtown Manhattan, the financial district, really, a walking tour. And it was really cool. Walked to see the saloon where George Washington told his troops that he was pretty much retiring from from the army, and it just so happened that 5 or 6 years later he ended up becoming our president after that. Went down to Wall Street, got to see where JBL works, and then went over to, where else did we go? We went to Bowling Park, which was interesting. Apparently the gates of Bowling Park are very unique because they're the oldest gates surrounding any park in New York City, I think it is, because the gates are from the 1700s, undisturbed. And it was very cool. It was very cool. I got to go to the municipal building. Couldn't go inside of it, but I did go to the outside of the municipal building, which I think is so awesome. I always think that the architecture, whenever there's a tunnel going underneath the building, is really incredible. Got to go to the Surrogates building, but couldn't go inside. I tried to, but they were locked because it was a holiday. It was an awesome, awesome tour. I really did like it. I'm looking forward to the next one as well.
Like you have one lined up?
No, not currently, but they do have other tours, historical tours that do take place. My parents love doing them. It's a nice way to just be active and outside anyways. And I mean, sometimes I was listening to the stories, and other times I was also getting lost in taking pictures and just seeing the surroundings of the I just love the architecture of downtown Manhattan. We went to Trinity Church, which is also the burial site of Alexander Hamilton and his wife. So went to Trinity Church, got to say hi to Alexander Hamilton. He did not say hi back, which I would have been concerned if he did. I did go inside of Trinity Church, which is absolutely beautiful. And then we also went to St. Charles Church, which is very historic too.
Was there anybody following you that wasn't paying for the tour?
No, not that I know of.
I feel like that's something people can do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, but I mean, people, when you're in the group and stuff, you get suspicious the person giving the tour is going to know if somebody's lingering around you.
But regardless, it's not against the law to, follow.
No, but they could call them out on it.
Yeah, well, you get called out. It's against the social norm, but.
I mean, it's stupid to do something like that. Just pay the
Why?
Just pay the $30 and don't be cheap.
Or you could just follow the group.
Nah, don't be cheap. Pay the person for what they work hard for.
Well,
that's my take.
Speaking of working hard,
but yeah,
we had Money in the Bank take place at the Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, Canada. It was announced after we recorded that Trish Stratus was going to be hosting Money in the Bank. And she introduced Samantha Irvin to sing the Star-Spangled Banner. Someone named Ryland James performed "O Canada." I believe he's a Canadian singer, which I guess they really wanted to lean into like the hockey thing, with it being where the Leafs play. Mm-hmm. Michael Cole on SmackDown also said that they wanted to have a white out, which was it's a hockey gimmick, but most people were not following it. You did have, like, the green shirt guy was wearing a white shirt, which was surprising to see, but most people weren't wearing white. Mm-hmm. So maybe next time give people more of a heads up in between.
Yeah, you would think that you would want that, right?
But the PLE kicked off with Drew McIntyre picking up the victory over my pick, Jey Uso, Andrade, Chad Gable, Carmelo Hayes, and LA Knight in the Money in the Bank ladder match to win the Money in the Bank briefcase.
This match was awesome, I thought.
Yeah, I liked somewhat early on, Chad Gable was using a submission on Drew McIntyre on the ladder. I thought that was pretty cool. Andrade doing that springboard leg drop kick, whatever you want to call, to break that submission up, I thought was really cool. I don't know even what to call that. It was like a Russian leg drop Spanish fly. Not a leg drop, a Russian leg sweep Spanish fly sort of thing from Andrade.
Yeah, I thought Andrade was totally a standout in this match.
Yeah, and they did that onto the ladder. I really don't know how else to describe that move. I thought it was really cool. But Chad Gable, we saw a German suplex a ladder onto Andrade. I thought that was interesting. And then Chad Gable had a spot where Jay moved the ladder and he was left hanging like we saw with Jeff Hardy. And he was hanging off the carabiner. I thought we were going to get like a spear spot over there, but Gable just fell off and landed.
I was actually, from that spot, I was expecting either a spear spot or I was expecting maybe the lights to go out and then some involvement of the Wyatt Sick.
But if that happened, would you expect when the lights came back on for Gable to have been lifted up or gone or something? What do you...
Either gone or just as a distraction with him falling to the middle of the ring and then having maybe Nikki Cross waiting for him and then just him kind of bailing on the match.
I guess I'm glad that didn't happen, though. Because then I feel like it would have cheapened McIntyre's win.
Yeah.
Which I was so sure that Jey Uso was about to win, and McIntyre knocked him off the ladder, hit that Claymore, grabbed that briefcase. I don't know when he said it, but apparently from either Monday Night Raw, somewhere in between Monday Night Raw and the event, he said that he was going to cash in if he wins.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody knew that he was going to be cashing in. We'll put a pin in that.
Yeah.
After that, we saw Sami Zayn pick up the victory over Braun Breaker to retain the Intercontinental Championship in, I thought, a very entertaining match. The internet was like, how dare they?
I thought it was all right.
How dare they make Braun Breaker look weak? Which I don't think he looked weak at all in this.
Yeah.
He did that clothesline from the apron to the commentary table. He limped after that, which was like worrying, but he continued the match. And I really thought that Braun Breaker was going to win this match. I think I was wrong on literally every match except for the main event.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't hate that Sami Zayn kept the title.
No,
because I think it helps not only build Sami Zayn, it helps build the title. Not that Sami Zayn needs to be built up bigger, but it 100% helps build that championship. Yeah. It's only been 3 months since he's won that title.
I thought it was okay, and if anything, I mean, this Braun Breaker's first main roster singles loss?
I think that's what they said.
I think it is, but...
And then come SummerSlam. I mean, SummerSlam, the biggest party of the summer in front of how many... It was like, maybe... Is it like 40,000 people or something at SummerSlam?
Yeah, and it still doesn't make you think any less of him.
No. Well, apparently for some people it did.
Yeah.
But I think we could see Braun Breaker win the Intercontinental Championship at SummerSlam now.
Yeah, I could see him.
We had Trish Stratus come out after that, and she spoke about her history in that arena, and then brought out John Cena. Very random. Apparently that was something known by the news sites, that John Cena was going to be there, so I'm glad I didn't see that at all.
Yeah, same.
And then his merchandise said, "The last time is now," and he goes on to speak about his retirement from WWE. And he spoke about how he's never been on Netflix, Monday Night Raw on Netflix, which he'll be on Monday Night Raw on Netflix, the 2025 Royal Rumble, the 2025 Elimination Chamber, and WrestleMania will be his last events of those three.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
And he ended it with saying, "You want some? Hurry up and come get some."
Yeah.
That's
so I guess
insane.
What do you think his last event's going to end up being?
Well, right now, at the press conference, he said that he plans from doing January to December. They have about 30 to 40 dates lined up, and they hope to add more.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting because I feel like his very last match should be Boston. But the very last date of 2025 is usually an MSG event.
Not usually.
Yeah.
No.
Usually
No, there's still another week.
Is there? I don't think so.
Yeah, normally MSG is like the 26th. There's still another week after that. In fact, December 30th is the last Monday. December 31st is a Tuesday. I can't see NXT being live there.
Maybe I could see them trying. I could see.
I'm actually looking at 2024. So 2025, the last the last Monday Night Raw is the 29th of December.
Okay.
NXT is the 30th. So I don't know if we'll see. Maybe the 29th will be the last. Maybe he'll have more into 2026. He didn't say that specifically 2025 was going to be his last ever dates with WWE.
I thought he made it seem like it was.
That's what everyone thought was his retirement was going to be at WrestleMania, but he said he's going through at least December. So I'm going to assume that December 29th will be the final time we see John Cena as a WWE superstar.
Do you think that we're going to see a John Cena heel turn during this time now?
No. There'd be no point.
Mm-hmm.
At least I don't think so. And he said when he ends his in-ring career, he'll not be done with WWE yet. So
yeah, I mean, I could see him still. I could see him doing something back office wise.
somebody asked if he could see himself be like a producer or something. It's John Cena. You're not going to have him show up every week and be a producer.
No, that's true.
He's on the level of
But-
I'm going to own the company with the
Exactly.
Rock.
He could still. He could be. He could
gets
be
a board
on the board of
seat,
directors
something like
for the
that.
WWE.
Yeah, I see a board seat if anything. I don't see producer
Yeah,
role
I
at all.
could. Yeah, I could definitely see that. I could see him being brought as on the board of directors for the WWE once he retires. Kind of
Next
similar
year is
to The Rock and everything.
Next year is the 20th anniversary of You Can't See Me, so I'm hoping we get some sort of 20th anniversary edition.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's the case. There was a thing that came out this week on TikTok. Rebby Hardy posted a TikTok of Matt Hardy reacting to John Cena's retirement. And she asked Matt for a story. And he said that most of the time in the back of the bus, the last two people freestyling was John Cena. The person we always knew was part of the back of the bus was John Cena and Rikishi doing the freestyling.
Mm-hmm.
The last two apparently were always John Cena and Matt Hardy. And then in the comments she posted that they apparently have an unreleased track together. And I'd really like to see if that's still a thing. And if there's a 20th anniversary edition of You Can't See Me, put that on there.
Yeah.
So
I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see who he ends up facing as well.
yeah,
I think it's going to be fun. I hope that we get to see something like him versus Cody for a little. I want to see him versus new people also, but I would also like to see him versus Randy Orton one more time.
I feel like that has to be WrestleMania. Somewhere
Which
in
would be?
between there is like John Cena, Randy Orton. I would like to see John Cena get that 17th title run.
Yeah.
So how that comes to be, who knows? I'd also like to see John Cena versus Matt Cardona.
That would be nice.
I think that'd be really cool.
Maybe he gets signed and brought back before then.
Well, the
Hook it up, Cena.
Royal Rumble is in Indy, so the Indy God should appear.
Yeah.
We saw Damian Priest. Also, thank you, John Cena. Big time.
Yes, thank you, John Cena. Never thought that we would actually... It's funny how he went from being such a hated person to becoming such a appreciated wrestler for the WWE.
Yeah, but we saw Damian Priest pick up the victory over Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins to retain the World Heavyweight Championship. Damian Priest had warned the Judgment Day to stay in the back. Seth Rollins was very aware that Drew McIntyre won the Money in the Bank and called him out even. He's like, let's go, Drew, come on. Priest was also aware of that and kept looking at the entranceway at times. We saw Seth Rollins, to my memory, use a bunch of new moves in this match. I don't know if we've seen Seth use a bunch of these moves.
It's good to see him back in the ring and performing at the caliber that we know that he's usually competing at.
A very high caliber for Seth Rollins here.
Yeah.
And then the unfortunate moment took place where Seth Rollins definitely had a 3 count after that Falcon Arrow. The referee just stopped counting. I think it was Bully Ray spoke about how he could see Priest checking his fingers, which means maybe he was not able to kick out.
Yeah,
A few seconds after that, you see the lights come up or whatever. McIntyre's theme hits. So what exactly went on? Triple H even commented on it and said it looked like a 3 to me too. It looked like a 3. He'll have to talk to the referee. It's referee's discretion.
That's the thing. It's one of those, like, I feel like the referee should have counted the 3. There's no, I feel like when they stop intentionally like this, it takes everybody. I'm not even going to say just me.
I mean, back in the day, a few years prior, this probably would have been a 3 count.
Exactly. There's no reason why he shouldn't have counted the 3 because it takes you out of the match totally. I would have rather him counted the 3 and then deal with the repercussion after. And even with the Drew McIntyre cash-in and CM Punk, which we'll talk about, I feel like there's ways that after you count the 3 on Priest, there's still ways that you could have went about that. You could have just had Drew McIntyre try to cash in on Seth Rollins instead.
I would have liked a follow-up on Raw with, like, repercussions to the ref.
That too.
Like,
I feel like
where something like he gets paid off by Judgment Day or something like that.
Yeah, there's ways that they could have made a save for that even further. They could have had it where Damian Priest didn't trust his team, and maybe he paid off the referee to have his back instead.
I think the story there would be more likely the team didn't trust Damian Priest to retain.
Okay. Yeah, so even if the team didn't trust that Priest would have retained, so they paid off the referee, roll with it, go with it. But, or at least backstage, make mention that the referee was fined for it, or make it like the referee was in their pocket. It's just so bad.
But
really not happy with that.
That unfortunately happened, and McIntyre came out to cash in. He hit the Future Shock DDT. He went for a Claymore. Damian Priest stopped it, and then CM Punk showed up and beat Drew McIntyre up. He took the championship. He knocked Drew McIntyre with it and watched Damian Priest hit that South of Heaven. And now Seth Rollins can't challenge for the championship as long as Damian Priest is champion. Which Seth Rollins was furious with CM Punk about. Corey Graves had to hold him back. McIntyre on the post show was furious. So even with that moment where Damian Priest, whatever happened, I still think everything that took place in that was so well aligned. People are like, oh, it's such a wasted winner of the Money in the Bank. We literally just saw Damian Priest cash in 3 months ago.
Yeah,
I don't think we need to have a lengthy Money in the Bank run.
I'd rather us have a mix, a combination of it, so this way we don't get used to it always happening that way.
Exactly, and they did call for the stat saying, I think it was 80% of the people who've cashed in have won the championship. So that also kind of makes me think that McIntyre or whoever was going to win wasn't going to win their cash in.
Yeah,
but I'm fine with people not winning their cash in.
I agree.
After that, we saw Tiffany Stratton pick up the victory over Lyra Valkyria, my choice, of course. Chelsea Green, Io Sky, Zoe Stark, and Naomi to win the Money in the Bank briefcase. This match, at the beginning of this match, it was, I think, somewhat sloppy. And then once they got past a certain point, it was like, holy crap, this match is amazing. So I thought well done by all of them after that point. I like that fisherman suplex that Lyra did to Io Sky. Tiffany Stratton, I liked her walking up the ladder in the corner.
I liked
to hit that
Chelsea
swanton
Green spot.
outside. You liked which?
The Chelsea Green spot.
Yeah. That was
I thought that was cool
insane.
spot.
Yeah, Chelsea almost had that Money in the Bank, and then Tiffany Stratton pushed her off through the two tables that her and Tiffany Stratton set up on the outside. That was nuts.
Yeah, that was a wild, wild scene.
And then Tiffany Stratton was able to win right after that. But I mean, even before that, we had that the tarantula German suplex off the ladder from Io. I thought that was nice. The split DDT from Naomi when she was on 2 different ladders, I thought was a cool spot. Chelsea hit that Unpretty Her on the bridging ladder. Io, I think the spot, probably the second spot of the night outside of that Chelsea Green spot, that Michinoku driver to Zoe Stark off the ladder onto that bridging ladder was insane. That was crazy. Yeah. So
that was a really cool spot.
I'm looking forward to this run with Tiffany Stratton. Trish Stratus was interviewed afterwards, and Tiffany Stratton interrupted her, and she's like, shouldn't you be saying something to me? And Trish was like, don't get ahead of yourself. So I don't think we'll see Trish versus Tiffany Stratton anytime soon, but
I don't think so.
But, I mean, it was still cool to have that interaction between the two of them.
Yeah, I think Tiffany Stratton, I think that she is going to cash in successfully, too. Whenever she does.
We'll see. I'm not, like, saying she won't.
Uh-huh.
But we'll see. Because I don't think there's been a woman who hasn't successfully cashed in.
I don't think now would be the time.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
So, hopefully it does set up Tiffany Stratton to win the championship, but we'll see. Main event saw the Bloodline, Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, and Solo Sikoa pick up the victory over Cody Rhodes, the WWE Champion Cody Rhodes, and RKO. I think it was really great to see Fatu's first match.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I mean, what did you think about that spot where he took out that medic?
Where who took out a medic?
Fatu.
A medic? I don't
where he
remember.
He got back body dropped over the guardrail, and he totally rocked one of the medics that was back there.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. But overall, I thought that it was a solid match. It was a good spotlight. I think it put a good spotlight on and attention on the Bloodline.
Yeah, it was a pretty standard 6-man tag for the most part. It was also a very much so a Bloodline match where we saw Tonga Loa get involved multiple times. But I still think it was exciting. We saw Cody at one point take Tonga Loa out when he shoved Fatu out of the way of the dive, but the referee was knocked out. And all the faces go on. They hit their moves on Solo Sikoa. They also cleared off the commentary table to put Solo Sikoa through it. And Jacob Fatu made that save. And then he runs into the referee by mistake, who was already against the steel steps, so the referee's like out of it. Kevin Owens puts Jacob Fatu through that table with the frog splash. And then when Kevin Owens was going for a package pile driver or whatever spot you were probably going for, not a package pile driver because he's never done that in WWE, Tonga Loa low blows Kevin Owens. Obviously, there's controversy around that spot because Kevin Owens jerks forward. Tonga Loa misses at first, has to redo it. It hits Tama Tonga in the head, but also hits Kevin Owens in the head, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, there's really, I mean,
it's unfortunate.
You can bash this, but on the other hand, there's nothing that, I mean, I know everybody's like, oh, New Japan Wrestling fans tried to tell you and tried to warn you.
Yeah.
I mean, Kevin Owens moved forward when he was mid-motion already going for a low blow. There's nothing that could have been a save with this. Nothing at all.
But Randy Orton took him out. He took Tama Tonga out, and then he got dropped by the Samoan Spike. Cody Rhodes hit 2/3 of the trifecta, and Jacob Fatu took him out, and then Fatu helped Solo Sikoa hit that Samoan Spike. He got the referee back in the ring, and they won the match. Also, another spot that people were upset about was when Randy Orton went for that DDT, the rope hung DDT of his. And Fatu, he sells it and then pops up because he's Jacob Fatu. why didn't Jacob Fatu sell this? If this was AEW, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, brother, first of all, he does sell it. Second of all, it's Jacob Fatu.
Yeah, it's Jacob Fatu.
Almost cursed there.
I'm sure if he sold it, people are going to say to come in with their complaints too.
He did sell it, though. He, grabs his head and then shakes it off.
What's the problem with that?
He
reacted to it.
That's the life of the IWC.
Moved on.
Speaking of moving on,
I mean, you had the Fiend, and there's so many moments where a wrestler, same thing happened, where they got hit in the head or they had a move done, and they just casually shrugged it off as if it was nothing. It's nothing new.
Speaking of shaking it off, the 9-year anniversary of us meeting Taylor Swift this past week.
Wow.
But moving over to Monday Night Raw, which kicked off with CM Punk, who congratulated John Cena at first, said that he'd like to get one more match in there before he leaves. And then he switched over to Drew McIntyre. They played the footage that caused Drew McIntyre to be suspended. That, like I mentioned before, it was after the show, the post-show, he was furious. He went to that panel table. He was furiously yelling about CM Punk. Elbows Adam Pearce. Wade Barrett gets right up there to, separate him. You got to think clear,
first
Drew.
fine right there.
Yeah, so he got fined or suspended from that whole setup there. Wade Barrett, I think, is fantastic at what he does in this situation. Because he's obviously on Team Drew. That whole after show, he was furious. The other time he was furious about what CM Punk did also. I don't think this is going to lead to Wade Barrett wrestling again. But I like that Wade Barrett is standing up for Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to wrestle again.
And CM Punk was also fined for that. And he spoke about how there's consequences to actions.
Yeah.
And he wants Drew McIntyre's suspension lifted, which I wasn't expecting to hear. But we saw Seth Rollins show up, and CM Punk goes to the commentary table and sits there. Adam Pearce later on told CM Punk that he'll call Drew McIntyre and deal with it next week, so... And CM Punk can't be there. So next week we will see Drew McIntyre on Monday Night Raw. It seems like that suspension will be lifted.
Yeah.
But Seth Rollins speaks to CM Punk, tells him to get in the ring. And he asked why CM Punk stuck his nose in his business. And CM Punk was like, I wasn't sticking my nose in your business. I was handling my business. And he apologized for costing Seth Rollins the title, but he also said that he can't really be sorry since it's Seth Rollins. And then, boom, that reignites. I mean, technically it was reignited when CM Punk got involved at that event at Money in the Bank. But that goes back to Survivor Series. Seth Rollins was furious that CM Punk was there. And Seth said when CM Punk is cleared, he's coming for him, and said that actions have consequences, just to reiterate, which I thought was a good tie-in to what CM Punk had said. Consequences have actions. So I assume we'll see a triple threat match at SummerSlam between the three of them.
I don't know if I want to see a triple threat between them.
Right now, it's perfectly set up for that.
I know. I kind of want the solo... Well, I mean, also right now, Drew McIntyre is suspended from the WWE.
But I feel like next week we'll see him back.
I mean, honestly, now that he's suspended, I could actually see him going over to TNA to face maybe Moose for the championship.
You said that the last time, and then Galloway didn't turn into Galloway, and he showed back up. He didn't quit. I think we're not seeing main roster TNA. Maybe AJ Styles will show up at Slammiversary. Maybe.
I don't know. And then he shows up and then CM Punk screws him over.
It doesn't seem like it right now. So Seth Rollins later on spoke to Damian Priest and said that Priest was very lucky at Money in the Bank, but he was also very good. He kept his word about the Judgment Day not getting involved, and he'll keep his word. He's not going to come for the championship. And he said as good as he was at Money in the Bank, he needs to be better at SummerSlam against Gunther. And Damian Priest said that when he's done with Gunther, he'll go to war with Seth again, and you could forget about the stipulation.
Meh.
And then he took a phone call and asked the person where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Which we'll put a pin in that as well.
Yeah. Next up, you had Jey Uso pick up the victory over Chad Gable. Solid match. Chad Gable almost won.
Yeah, I liked when Chad Gable caught Jey Uso off that suicide dive with the belly-to-belly suplex, but I still can't comprehend how Jey landed the way he did. But it was cool. It just didn't... It doesn't make sense to me how it happened. But Chad Gable locked Jey Uso in an ankle lock. The power goes out, like the Wyatt Six. Jey Uso was able to get the victory off of that off the distraction.
Which sucks running. Because he had the ankle locked in, and Gable was pretty much going to win.
Yeah, and Jey Uso took off running. Nikki Cross popped up, and Chad Gable took off. And she delivered another box. This time she gave it to Pat McAfee. And then, which we still don't really know why it has to be Pat McAfee. Maybe it's because he's the one that's in charge of the circles and everything on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, maybe not. But later on, they cut to the videotape. Uncle Howdy wanted to know more about Bo's family. And he said that he took those that nobody wanted and gave them purpose. And he has to set them free. We also saw the Wyatt Six members unmasked in that video.
Yeah, that I'm going to chime in on. That I liked a lot.
Dexter Lumis got dreads now. I don't know if that's like extensions or if he like actually grew his hair out or what.
Yeah. I was a big fan of this. I thought that them exposing their faces was great because it also shows that hopefully when they wrestle, they're going to be unmasked when they wrestle. But I love that it totally makes sense. Same thing with last week, how they're giving them a reason to have the mask, that they are the forgotten people. And now that they are able to take off that mask whenever they are able to, they're very humanized, so they don't have to have these superpowers like The Fiend did, and they could actually be hurt. They can lose here and there. They don't have to be set up in this Michael Myers kind of a way where they're just unbeatable. So I'm a big fan of this.
And Chad Gable was worried about the videotape, and he doesn't think that Adam Pearce is doing anything about it. And Adam Pearce said that if he thinks they're coming after him, maybe he should wonder why. Which is messed up because, like, you're the general manager. You should be, like, helping your roster out.
Yeah. I mean, bro, do your job.
But Chad Gable said that he'd take care of it his way. And then Adam Pearce goes into his office, and Bo Dallas was sitting there.
Yeah, that, like you just saw... He opens up the door and you just see somebody sitting there, and then they turn around and then you find out that it was actually Bo Dallas.
My jaw
huge
hit the floor.
Huge.
I was not expecting that. So
not at all.
Also we saw later on Chad Gable was talking to the Creeds and Ivy Nile. That took place in the background of a segment. So
yeah.
But after that, we saw Bronson Reed and Pete Dunne in a match. Pete Dunne eating that loss. We saw Sheamus interviewed about being in the WWE for 15 years. And Bronson Reed interrupted it. I like that Pat McAfee during the match, or I think it was maybe during the entrance, brought up his history with Pete Dunne.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had teamed together in War Games with Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch to lose to Undisputed Era. But we also found out that Tyler Bate was apparently injured on NXT last week. But Bronson Reed controlled a majority of this match. He hit the tsunami to pick up the victory, and he went to continue the beatdown on Pete Dunne. Sheamus made the save. We got a little Brawling Brutes reunion there. Pete Dunne was not happy about that at all. And he left Sheamus in the ring by himself. So, maybe we'll see Sheamus and Pete Dunne go at it. I don't know.
Possible.
We saw Sami Zayn speak about Braun Breaker. And he said that Braun Breaker went into that match thinking Sami was the underdog, and he's not the underdog anymore. He's the champion. And Braun Breaker showed up, and Sami Zayn asked him if he's looking for a rematch, and Braun Breaker said there isn't a reason why I should be given a rematch. And then he speared the hell out of Sami Zayn and beat him down. It was broken up. And then Braun Breaker hit everybody with the point, the distraction point, and everybody turns their head. And he uses that 23-mile-per-hour run that Michael Cole always talks about and spears the hell out of Sami Zayn again. And then Ilya Dragunov ran down, and he was held back, but he told Adam Pearce that he wants a match with Braun Breaker. And I think the setup for that match, that whole segment with Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker was, I thought, very well done.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, we saw Ilya Dragunov beat Braun Breaker by disqualification, though. And I think they had a good match. It was nothing short of what I expected from the two of them. But Braun Breaker threw an office chair at Ilya Dragunov. And then he continued the attack. Sami Zayn ran down to stop it. And then Braun Breaker destroyed both of them.
Totally taken out.
After that, we saw the Judgment Day and Carlito pick up the victory. Well, I guess the Judgment Day in general. Pick up the victory over Braun Strowman and the Awesome Truth. The Judgment Day attacked the Awesome Truth before Braun Strowman made his entrance. And then Braun showed up and just, I guess, took over. I don't want to say cleared house, but he took over. I popped big time when R-Truth locked arms with Braun Strowman to do the train gimmick with him.
Train.
I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
But Braun Strowman chased JD McDonough away from the ringside area. R-Truth was taunting towards the crowd, had his eyes off Finn Balor, and Finn Balor was able to hit that shotgun dropkick and the coup de grace to pick up the victory.
I thought it was a solid showing for them.
Yeah, and I feel like we'll see maybe the Awesome Truth win it in Cleveland. Maybe.
I don't know.
I believe we spoke about that last week as well, so.
Yeah, I don't know.
After that, they aired a video from the Final Testament, and Karrion Kross said that Legends of the Old Guard will be the death of WWE if left unchecked, and they're the true enemy of WWE right now. And he mentioned how John Cena realizes that his time is almost done, and that's a good thing. But Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods do not realize that. And he said that Xavier Woods was able to beat him, unlike Kofi Kingston. And now he can be either a man or put down like Kofi Kingston. And he said the New Day is dead. Whether or not we see backup or what out of this, I have no idea.
No, it's going to be interesting to see how that takes place, but next up, you had Damage Control pick up the victory over Lyra Valkyria, Kaden Carter, and Katana Chance.
Yeah. Damage Control had a video air earlier about bringing it to their opponents and how they've lost control and they're taking it back. So,
yeah.
I didn't fully think that Damage Control was going to be winning this.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they picked up the victory.
I also like how well Lyra was working with Katana Chance and Kaden Carter.
Mm-hmm.
Like they did that, like the step up poetry in motion where Lyra and Kaden were at like different levels for Katana to run up. I thought that was pretty cool. But Damage Control took over and took them out. And then immediately following the match, Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark, and Sonya Deville show up and jump Damage Control. And backstage, they put everybody on notice. Isla Dawn and Alba Fire completely rolled their eyes at it. But I like this group. We've seen Sonya Deville trying to recruit over the past few weeks. And it seems like she's landed with Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark.
I mean, it's very fitting for me to see them all together.
I'm
very happy to see that too.
But is Damage Control going to be faces? Are they going to be heels? What's the deal there?
I feel like you could definitely make them a switch over to be faces.
We'll see.
What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it seemed like people booed Shayna Baszler and Sonya Deville and Zoe Stark.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that could have easily flipped them to faces.
Yeah. Why not?
The main event, we saw Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan pick up the victory over the LWO, which Dominic tried to get out of the match, and Adam Pearce wouldn't let him do that. Liv also asked Dominic to work through some double team moves together, and she stretched him as the Judgment Day walked in, which was maybe a callback to Triple H and Trish Stratus.
Yes,
so I thought that was a pretty funny segment. All the reactions that took place in that was...
Yeah.
But Damian Priest told the rest of the group. We had already saw Damian Priest had that phone call. He told the group that he has a surprise for Dominic, and they're like, oh, what is it? And they're like, I'm going to let Dominic find out first.
Oh,
and then
man.
we go to the match.
Entire time.
We go to the match. Liv Morgan, I liked hitting the Eddie Guerrero taunt and the Three Amigos and everything to mess with Ray and Zelina.
Mm-hmm.
The 619 spot for me, I think, took too long, but I still liked it.
Okay.
Where Dominic caught Ray's legs, but then Zelina Vega hit one to him. And then Liv went for the Oblivion, and she got out of the way and got hit with a 619. But Liv Morgan slid a chair into the ring. She crotched Rey Mysterio when the referee was distracted with the chair. Dominic was able to hit a frog splash and pick up the victory there. And it looked like Dominic was about to embrace Liv Morgan and kiss her after the match.
Everything was the time was starting to slow down, and they were getting a little bit too close.
And Rhea Ripley returned. The crowd went insane.
Ballistic.
Liv Morgan ran off. Rhea Ripley got into Dominic's face, and he went for a hug, and she left.
Yeah, and I like that Liv totally bailed right away. She didn't even stick around. Once she heard that theme song, she just bounced.
She was watching through the curtain.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe next week we'll see Dominic get some flowers for Rhea Ripley.
That'd be funny.
I feel like that has to happen.
Uh-huh.
But that's Monday Night Raw. Gonna move back to NXT Heatwave, which also took place at the Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, Canada. The kickoff show had Carmen Petrovich and Ariana Grace pick up the victory over JC Jane and Jasmine Nix. Grace and Petrovich, I think, actually worked well as a tag team here. And Ariana Grace actually pulled Jasmine Nix out of a pin and then reversed it into a pin for Petrovich to pick up that victory there. But later on, Ava said that they make a good team, and Grace put herself over as the MVP and said that they'll never team again, and it set up a match between the two of them on NXT, which we'll talk about in a moment.
Next up, you had Obafemi pick up the victory over Wesley to retain his championship. Obafemi is a beast.
He beat the hell out of Wesley for most of this match.
And that's exactly how it should be.
Lee had a comeback here, and I like the series of suicide dives from Wesley that he hit 3 of them, and none of them took Obafemi down.
Mm-hmm.
I liked Wesley getting out of the power bomb from the middle rope. But ultimately, now Wesley can't challenge Obafemi again for that North American Championship.
Yeah.
We'll put a pin in that as well.
Next up, you had Kalani Jordan. Pick up the victory over Sol Ruca to retain her North American Championship. Kalani Jordan, she's starting to really connect to the fans and everything, and I think she's coming into her own really well.
I thought this was a very entertaining match. I thought it was very good. They had a lot of nice counters in this. Sol Ruca climbed up to the middle rope with Kalani on her shoulders, and Kalani Jordan was able to reverse that into a Poison Rana, and then she hit that split-legged moonsault to pick up the victory, so it was kind of Sol Ruca's fault that she lost, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But I was entertained by this. At first, when I was watching this match, I was like, this kind of like gives me shades of RVD versus Jerry Lynn. Ricochet took to Twitter and said it's kind of like the female me versus Will Ospreay, which became a huge hot topic of a debate on the internet.
Yeah.
I think Ricochet was pretty spot on to say that. And there were some people who have praised Ricochet and Ospreay who have not praised Kalani Jordan versus Sol Ruca. And they shouldn't be allowed to have a voice, a platform.
Yeah. Next up, you had Axiom and Nathan Fraser pick up the victory over Chase U. Chase U unable to claim those championships. Fraser and Axiom retaining the championships.
Nathan Fraser showed up hours late, basically like right before the show started. And Axiom wasn't happy with that. I thought that was going to directly lead to them losing.
Yeah, it's got to be coming soon.
It seems like it, but I like that senton gutbuster that Duke hit on both Axiom and Nathan Fraser. I liked Andre Chase breaking up that pin after the Phoenix Splash by hitting a Canadian Destroyer off of Nathan Fraser's back. Nathan Fraser at one point also accidentally hit Axiom and almost led to the end of the match, which I was surprised to see that. So Chase U picked up that loss there.
Yeah.
I don't know who the next champions will be.
But
it feels like it has to be soon.
Yeah, I would have to look at the roster, to be honest with you. Nobody tag team wise is coming to my mind.
Kind of hoping it's somebody not on the roster, but
well, I definitely don't see Axiom and Fraser holding it much longer.
No.
Next up, you had Roxanne Perez pick up the victory over Lola Vice to retain her championship. Roxanne Perez having to go for that Pop Rocks 2 times.
4 times?
But I'm glad that she nailed it the second time.
4 times.
And 4 times. Well, I thought the second to last was more so a botch, no?
I mean, yes, probably, but
but still good match.
I thought we were going to see more like MMA style moves from Lola Vice, like a lot more, but which we did see some, but not as much as I thought. But Lola Vice hit the ring post and she wasn't able to do much with her arm, and which she did do the back fist, but maybe after hitting the ring post, maybe you shouldn't have.
Mm-hmm.
She was still able to kick. She was able to use her legs. We saw Roxanne Perez clear off that commentary table and hit the first Pop Rocks on it. She used a crossface that injured on the injured arm, and then rolled through to a Pop Rocks, and then she picked up Lola Vice for a 4th Pop Rocks, and I think the whatever happened there, I guess like the momentum just wasn't there. It seemed like Roxanne Perez was pissed because she like ripped Lola Vice up to hit the final one. But Roxanne Perez is still champion. We'll see more who she'll end up facing. I think the next opponent has to be Julia. But we'll see.
Yeah, it's hard to predict. It's hard to really say, but next up, the main event of the evening of NXT Heatwave. You had Ethan Page pick up the victory over Sean Spears Evans and Trick Williams to become your new NXT champion. You called it. You said it.
Yeah.
You said it.
Ethan Page came out. He showed up to the arena in the Canadian tuxedo gimmick, and he said he had special gear for this. And then he comes out. He's in red, white, and blue, and the back of his jacket says "Resident of the USA," and I thought that was hilarious. I popped for Trick Williams paying tribute with his gear to Booker T. As far as the match goes, I didn't like all the chain reaction moves in this. I did like that Doomsday Device though from Ethan Page and Trick Williams that led to the DDT to Shawn Spears. But Shawn Spears used his chair in this match. Javon going over that ring post and putting Trick through the barricade, I thought was pretty cool.
That was a nice spot.
Shawn Spears hit a C4 from the middle rope. The one sequence of moves from Javon Evans where it looked like he was about to win, I thought was nice, which I thought was good to make it look like he had a shot. Trick Williams at one point pushed Javon out of a springboard through the commentary table. He didn't want to do that, but I mean, you got to do what you got to do to retain your championship.
Yeah.
But we saw Trick Williams. He knocks Ethan Page out with the trick shot. Ethan Page falls backwards onto Javon Evans. Shawn Spears pulls Trick Williams out of the ring. Very much so the ending of the Backlash 2007 match where Shawn Michaels hit that sweet chin music on John Cena, who fell on top of Randy Orton to win. So I thought it was a creative finish to have Ethan Page pick up the victory and the championship.
Yeah, at first I thought that it was a bit too soon for him to win the championship, especially him just coming over recently.
The quickest person to win a championship in NXT. The person who held that previously was Kevin Owens.
That's wild.
It was three extra weeks added to that.
Yeah, I think that's wild, but kudos to Ethan Page. But I think that something that we got to mention is it didn't just end there. Joe Hendry appearing right at the close of the show, not in person. Awesome inclusion of Joe Hendry, and what a way to pop the crowd. Well, I guess pop the viewer.
Yeah, I mean, it sets up perfectly for this episode of NXT. It kicked off with Ethan Page, who came out with a bunch of security, and he spoke about how quickly he won that championship. Oro Mensah tried to jump Ethan Page, but security took him away. And then Ethan Page said that he'll make sure that no outsiders come to NXT to ruin NXT. And Trick Williams came out and he said that he wants a rematch on NXT. That episode, Ethan Page was like, nah. And then Shawn Spears showed up and he's like, well, you should be thanking me for this championship win. Had I seen Trick Williams, or had I seen that you were pinning Javon Evans, I would not have been dealing with Trick Williams like that. And then he also said, which by the way, there was a spot in that match where Ethan Page was face to face with Shawn Spears, and both of them at the same exact time poked each other in the eyes. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, that was a nice spot.
But Shawn Spears, or I think it was either Shawn Spears or Ethan Page told Trick Williams to get to the back of the line. And then Javon Evans showed up and he said that he knocked Ethan Page and Shawn Spears out. And then this came to blows with Trick Williams and Javon Evans on top. And then we'll put a pin in that.
Yeah.
After that, we saw Carmen Petrovic pick up the victory over Ariana Grace. JC Jane and Jasmine Nix came out during this. I thought they had good back and forth. Somewhat of a short match. But Fallon Henley attacked Carmen Petrovic after this match. To me, it kind of sucks that Petrovic and Ariana Grace won't be tagging anymore. Because I really enjoyed them as a team.
Yeah, you were just even saying that too. They were just a team together. But I kind of see. I don't know.
I
think that
Ariana Grace, she thinks that Carmen Petrovic was a bully, so we'll see what happens with that. Fallon Henley, it seems like she's with JC Jane and Jasmine Nix now.
Mm-hmm.
After that, we saw Brooks Jensen. He apologized to Ava for the past few weeks, and she said that she and Sean were ready to release Brooks a few weeks ago, but they're willing to give him a second chance. And he said he's going to make an impact, which everyone's like, oh my God, Brooks Jensen's probably going to TNA. But then, making an impact, he attacks Javon Evans. And Josh Briggs was pissed off. He's like, I stuck my neck out for him. And you're doing stuff like this. And that took Javon Evans out of the main event. And Trick Williams had to go. Yeah, Trick had to go find a partner. On the TV appeared Joe Hendry's face.
I mean, and just to note, I think that his face appeared also during Monday Night Raw at one point too, right?
No.
I thought that his face
during a
appeared...
commercial for NXT.
Oh, it was during a commercial.
Yeah. I was like trying to remember. I was like, there's a sign maybe in the crowd for him, but... and then Ava said that if Javon Evans is cleared next week, he'll face Brooks Jensen. Josh Briggs said he'll handle Brooks, but he also wants Shawn Spears. And then we'll put a pin, obviously, in that main event match.
Yeah.
Tony D'Angelo picked up the victory over Lexis King to retain the Heritage Cup. Eddie Thorpe was like DJing during the breaks of the matches, which I thought was interesting. But Lexis King took his eyes off of Tony D'Angelo at the start of round 2. Tony got that first fall. Lexis King got a pin in round 3 to tie it up. And then Tony D'Angelo, after a huge spine buster, wins the match in round 4. So I assume we're going to see something with Lexis King and Eddie Thorpe next week. Maybe. After that, we saw Gallus pick up the victory over Tyreek Igwe and Tyson DuPont. They brawled before the match. Both teams fought very hard in this. But I would have been very surprised if Gallus lost.
I can't see Gallus losing this one, but I could see them losing in the future.
Yeah. After that, we had Wesley come out and he spoke about his match with Obafemi. I could swear to God he had a similar speech about him stepping away. I feel like we've seen that before. And he said that he thinks it's time to step away. And then MSK's music hit. Have not heard that in a long time. And Trey Miguel, Zachary Wentz show up. And Zachary Wentz is like, it's time to get the band back together and wreck house. And they all hugged. Pop big time for that. I clapped even.
Yeah.
I thought that was
awesome.
That
this was definitely very cool.
Yeah, especially, I mean, the last time we saw Wentz, he was Nash Carter. And obviously got released due to the stuff that was going on the internet.
Yeah.
All unfortunate stuff. And now he's seemingly back with the Rascals. MSK.
And I like how they cut promo backstage introducing themselves.
Yeah, Gallus interrupted them later on, and they were like, we don't want anyone from TNA and NXT. And they were like, and also, who are you even, basically? Like, because they're the Rascals, they're MSK. And they mentioned that the Rascals, if it's the three of them, they're the Rascals. If it's Wesley and Zachary Wentz,
it's MSK.
Yeah. And we'll see them, I think that's a 6-man tag match next week. That's awesome. And they came out, they had the TNA nameplate and everything. It was pretty cool. After that, we saw Thea Hale pick up the victory over Izzy Dame. Dame controlled most of this match. Tatum Paxley showed up, and Izzy Dame attacked her. But it led to her running into the post, and Thea Hale took over. She locked her in that Kimura and made Izzy Dame tap out. There was a spot later on. What happened with the anonymous person saw Tatum Paxley backstage? Oh, she ripped the Barbie doll head off of the Barbie. And then Wendy Chu showed up. So it seems like maybe we'll see Wendy Chu and Tatum Paxley form some sort of an alliance together.
Maybe. They kind of fit each other.
Yeah. Obafemi also, he put Duke Hudson on notice after this match. And Ridge Holland was the one that he got him a match with Obafemi. He was the one that got Thea Hale the match. But Duke, at first when Ridge told them, he didn't seem too pleased that he had that match against Obafemi. But after Obafemi put Duke Hudson on notice in front of the live crowd, Hudson hyped himself up and basically said he's taking that title from Obafemi.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry. Not going to happen.
No.
Keep on dreaming.
Not happening at all.
Not happening.
After that, the OTM picked up the victory over the OC. This match has been building for weeks. We saw Mia Yim show up, and the referees had security hold her back. They held back Jada Parker. OTM used that referee being distracted to gain the upper hand. Very big win for them. I think it's a necessary win for them.
100%.
I don't know if the OC are in Japan now.
Because of AJ Styles with Noah?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a necessary thing. And I think next week, is that also a 6-person tag? I don't know.
I'm not too sure. I don't know if they ever announced that there was going to be one, to be honest.
I'm pretty sure they definitely announced that Gallus versus the Rascals thing.
Okay.
But I'm not sure about the OTM versus the OC.
Mm-hmm.
We had no quarter catch crew outside, basically just killing Damon Kemp off, who is no longer with WWE. They shoved him in a trunk, I guess. It's, if you know, you know. We didn't actually see Damon Kemp, but it's the MO of everybody in NXT. It seems to shove somebody in a trunk.
Yeah, and then farewell.
And Ren Sinclair saw all of this, and she was like horrified, and she's like, I didn't see anything, and I thought that was so funny too.
Yeah,
so,
bon voyage.
It's unfortunate that Damon Kemp is no longer with WWE. I don't know. I have to assume WWE made the choice not to renew the contract, but
I mean, it's the same thing that happened with Dijak.
Which still, it just doesn't. It doesn't make sense at all.
I mean, it's just one of those things where they just didn't do the contract.
Which also, first of all, when Gable Steveson was signed and Damon Kemp was signed, everyone was like, oh, well, obviously Damon Kemp is signed because his brother is Gable Steveson.
Yeah.
Damon Kemp far eclipsed his brother in pro wrestling. So I was very surprised to see that tweet from Damon Kemp about not being in WWE anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that's unfortunate. But after that, we saw Sol Ruca pick up the victory over Fallon Henley via disqualification. I thought it was a good match. I liked Fallon being like one step ahead of Sol Ruca on her moves. But Sol Ruca hit that Soul Snatcher, and before she could win, JC Jane and Jasmine Nix attacked her. I would have thought that Fallon would have won this match, but Sol was about to win regardless of that.
Yeah.
So I really thought Fallon Henley needed a strong victory, but with that DQ, I guess it's fine.
I mean, yeah, it still kind of provides the victory. You know, I don't think there's much that you could do with it.
No.
But
backstage, Ava was just getting out of a meeting that Stevie Turner had set up. Turns out that Cedric Alexander is now a part of the NXT brand. And then Robert Stone showed up, and he's on the phone. He's like, oh, just come around the corner. He's like, oh, I got a great thing for you. And it turns out to be Ashanti the Adonis, who I guess is now also with NXT. And I think it's ridiculous and funny also at the same time, because these two are a tag team. So I don't know if they're going to still be a tag team or what's the deal with that at all.
What's the deal?
But we go to the main event.
Safe to say that they're together.
I have no idea, Because one meeting was set up by Stevie, one meeting was set up by Robert.
I mean, it would be interesting to play it into their storyline a little bit, being like, why did you agree to this? I thought we were a tag team.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
Like, you can play it up in a way.
But the main event, we see Ethan Page and Shawn Spears make their way out. We see Trick Williams make his way out. And then you had to know it was coming. Say his name, and he appears. Joe Hendry was there. And I think that was cool. I liked the crowd singing Joe Hendry's theme song during the match. But Oro Mensah finally gets his hands on Ethan Page, who ran off through the crowd. The referee didn't even, bat an eye. The champion is gone. Where's the champion? I don't care.
We don't know.
Trick Williams got the trick shot on Shawn Spears. Joe Hendry was able to get that victory. And the IWC is pissed to see Joe Hendry.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're going to be pissed because good things are happening.
Why?
Because, NXT fans only know the theme song. They've never seen Joe Hendry wrestle. Now there's chant.
But that's okay. So all right. So let's say NXT crowd, WWE crowd, has never seen Joe Hendry wrestle before. Guess what? That's exactly why TNA is doing this with WWE. Because now there's NXT talent that I have never watched before. And many others out there haven't. And now we are exposed to them. And now we may say, maybe I'm going to tune into TNA. Maybe I'm going to try to watch their pay-per-view or catch something on streamed or something like that. Because now I'm interested in Joe Hendry. Now I'm interested in whoever they may want to introduce you to. And also, Joe Hendry... for me personally, I ranted about this, about how I didn't like how Jordan Grace lost. I didn't rant about it, but how a lot of the NXT people were going over, it seemed, when the pairings were done on WWE TV. Even though on AEW, Jordan Grace did pick up victories, I wanted to see something on where TNA guy got a victory over WWE on NXT. And guess what? Joe Hendry pinned Shawn Spears, who's probably one of the top heels on NXT right now. That's huge.
Did you mean to say on TNA that she was getting victories?
Yeah, TNA. What did I say, AEW?
Yeah.
Yeah, TNA. But Joe Hendry picking up a pinfall victory on Shawn Spears, that's huge.
In the main event.
In the main event on
and
their
it's funny,
own program.
It's funny because the last time we saw him, even though the fans all marked out, he was technically a heel. He was a heel to Shawn Michaels. He was a heel to the crowd. And then he shows back up in the main event beyond over as a face.
Huge.
So I thought that was really cool. But that's NXT. Moving over to SmackDown. It opened up with Tiffany Stratton celebrating the Money in the Bank victory. She put Liv Morgan, Roxanne Perez, and Bayley on notice. And then Bayley came out and said that she won the Money in the Bank in 2019. She wanted to give advice to Tiffany Stratton. And when she won the Money in the Bank, Tiffany Stratton probably didn't even know what WWE was. And Bayley said that if she plans on cashing in on her, she better plan on being the first woman to lose the briefcase. And then Nia Jax came out to remind Bayley that they have a match at SummerSlam, and said that she'll be taking the title from Bayley. Bayley then tried to put Tiffany Stratton against Nia Jax, but in regards to the cash-in, but that really didn't work too well, and it came to blows, and Mia Yim made the save, and then we go into Nia Jax picking up the victory over Mia Yim, where Nia controlled most of this match. She even knocked an eyelash off of Mia Yim at one point. I thought that was kind of a funny spot there. Not that was a planned spot, obviously, but she had a few comebacks. To me, there was no way that Mia Yim was winning that match, though. But Tiffany Stratton got involved, and Bayley took her out. Nia Jax was still able to hit all her moves and pick up that victory. And then after the match, Bayley attacked Nia Jax. Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton took her down. And Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton went to leave. Tiffany kind of teased cashing in the Money in the Bank. Nia Jax stopped her from doing that. The fans were fully behind Tiffany Stratton cashing in. And they booed when Nia Jax stopped her. After that, they had a sit-down interview with Andrade, with Byron Saxton. Carmelo Hayes interrupted this, basically saying, oh, you should be talking about me, you shouldn't be talking about him. Byron had asked what's next for Andrade, and Andrade was like, him. I thought that was clever wordplay based on Carmelo Hayes being called him. And it looks like we're going to have Andrade versus Carmelo Hayes. We saw Legado del Fantasma pick up the victory over Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews. Before the match, Baron Corbin launched Apollo Crews over the top rope to take them out. And then during the match, they teased Baron Corbin doing that. And I thought it was just going to be like a funny moment where he doesn't actually do it. But Crews launched Baron Corbin over the top rope onto them, and I thought that was awesome. But Santos Escobar got involved. Baron Corbin temporarily took him out. Elektra Lopez then got involved, and Santos got back into the ring, or not got back into the ring, he got into the ring, took Apollo Crews out, and that led to the end of the match. And I just think out of that, it was great to hear fans cheering for Apollo Crews and Baron Corbin. Because rewind a few weeks ago or a few months ago, that wouldn't be a thing. We saw LA Knight came out. He showed a clip of him from a few weeks ago at Madison Square Garden where he qualified for the Money in the Bank match. And he said that even though he lost the Money in the Bank, he also pinned Logan Paul in that match to qualify. And he got a contract drawn up to face Logan Paul at SummerSlam for the United States Championship. It's signed by Nick Aldis. He signed it then, and now he wants Logan Paul to sign it. And I think as much as I like Logan Paul's title reign, they need to give the title to LA Knight. After that, we saw Naomi pick up the victory over Blair Davenport. I fully expected Blair Davenport to win this match, but Naomi controlled most of this and got the victory. I was very surprised to see Naomi win this. But I thought they had a decent match. Afterwards, Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair celebrated backstage with Naomi. Naomi brought up maybe them getting a tag title shot again, and Bianca Belair said, we went to talk to Nick Aldis. Nick Aldis isn't there. Chelsea Green overheard that in the background. She got pissed off. Her, Piper Niven, Pretty Deadly, they've all been waiting the whole night to speak to Nick Aldis. They've had funny segments backstage waiting for Nick. But they stormed off. Blair Davenport showed up to put Naomi over and shake her hand and be like, maybe next time I'll get it or whatever. Naomi shook hands with Blair Davenport, turned her attention away from her, and then boom, Blair Davenport took out Naomi. After that, DIY picked up the victory over A-Town Down Under to retain the tag team championships. They had some good back and forth in this. A-Town Down Under at one point tried to hit Meet in the Middle, but Ciampa got out of the way. Grayson Waller eventually accidentally clocks Austin Theory again. And then DIY hit a shatter machine and then Meet in the Middle to pick up that victory. Austin Theory and Grayson Waller argued afterwards. And all of a sudden, Jacob Fatu runs down as fast as possible and takes out all four of them, which was crazy. But earlier in the night, Randy Orton had spoken to Cody Rhodes and said that he'll have his back no matter what with the Bloodline. Even if Cody Rhodes doesn't want him out there, he'll have his back. Even when he's beyond the Bloodline, he'll have his back, which I think we all know has to be leading to Randy Orton turning on Cody Rhodes and setting up Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. But the closing segment of SmackDown, after that attack from Jacob Fatu, the Bloodline came out. And Solo Sikoa brought up what happens when people don't acknowledge him. Jimmy Uso's gone. Paul Heyman's gone. Roman Reigns, for the time being, is gone. And people are cheering. Obviously, we want Roman. And he said, don't cheer for him. And if he does come back, he will acknowledge me as the tribal chief. And then he shifted his focus to Cody Rhodes and said that it's Cody's turn to acknowledge him. And he called Cody out. Cody said they basically want the same thing. And he has to speak to Nick Aldis, but consider it official for SummerSlam, alluding to a match for the WWE Championship between Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa. And Cody said if it was up to him, it wouldn't be at SummerSlam. We wouldn't have to wait for it. It would be right then and there. Cody takes off his jacket. The four of them surround him. Cody goes after all four of them. The Bloodline quickly take over. Randy Orton runs down. They get a quick comeback, but they, again, quickly took over. They put Randy Orton through the commentary table. Solo had Cody Rhodes tied up in the ropes and made him watch the whole thing. And after they put Randy through that table, hit Cody with the Samoan Spike. That was another fantastic ending of SmackDown. All the way up from that tag team match leading into that segment where Jacob Fatu just literally tore through four people. And then they basically go on to tear through Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton as well. I thought that was great. So that's SmackDown. Going to take a quick little break, and I'll be right back here on Markin Out.
This is Shane Hurricane Helms, and you're listening to Marking Out. And if not, what's up with that?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Markin Out, episode 701. Going back to Rampage from last week, it kicked off with Roosh picking up the victory over Commander. I don't think this match should have been as long as it was. I thought the match was fine, but I just feel like it's annoying that some weeks you see Roosh tear through opponents, and then you have matches like this sprinkled in, which just doesn't make sense to me. They aired a video of Don Callis and Roosh later on. I feel like that was out of place, but it seems like they have an agreement now. It seems like he might be joining the Don Callis family. But it felt out of place because they had this match, and then they had a match where Don Callis was out on commentary. The video felt like something that you could have just aired on Collision. After that, you saw Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher pick up the victory over Private Party. I enjoyed most of this match. I hated that there was almost no control from the referee, which is just such a constant thing in AEW, but it's ridiculous when you see the faces cheat and then the heels cheat and both get away with it. One or the other, preferably the heel. My favorite part of this match was definitely when Kyle Fletcher thought like everything was going their way, and Private Party was able to hit Gin and Juice on Takeshita. It didn't end up in their favor in the end, but I liked that spot of the match. After that, Kyle O'Reilly defeated GPA, which I thought was the right length. Roddy did commentary and cheered Kyle O'Reilly on, and the Undisputed Kingdom tried to celebrate with Kyle O'Reilly after the match. He walked away. He wasn't having any of it. He doesn't want anything to do with Roderick Strong. Main event saw Mariah May pick up the victory over Hikaru Shida to advance to the finals in the Owen Hart Tournament. You went into this knowing that Mariah May was going to the finals, and I think that's fine. I just wish that Hikaru Shida was around more before being put into the Owen Hart. And I thought this was a good main event. A bit confusing. I don't know how I feel about Mariah May looking weak at points and then strong at others. And I don't like that quick pin from the end of this. Even more so now that I know the outcome of the Owen Hart Tournament. But you move on to AEW Collision that opened up with MJF, and he spoke about Danny Garcia. They replayed the promo from a year ago when MJF spoke about the anti-Semitic stuff that happened to him and how it made him have to stab everyone in the back, and related it to the fans turning their backs on him in 2024. And then they turned their attention to guys like Joe and Swerve and Will Ospreay, which to me was just like boo-hoo. And he blamed the fans for what he did to Daniel Garcia, and he spoke about how Will Ospreay and the ratings, how Will only cares about the ratings from Dave Meltzer. He cares about the Nielsen ratings. And he spoke about how Will can't help the company like he can. And he challenged Will to come out, even though Will wasn't there. Will's music hit. Will, again, wasn't there. I think a lot of this could have been condensed into a 5-minute promo. So, outside of that, it was okay. I didn't think it was like the greatest thing ever. Later on, we saw Matt Menard. They said he couldn't do commentary, but he was able to cut a full-on promo on MJF, which makes no sense to me. But Matt Menard said that MJF won't know when Daniel Garcia will get his hands on him, but it'll be the Red Death when he does. So when we'll see Daniel Garcia show up again, if I was a betting man, I would say next week, but who knows. Orange Cassidy, Kyle O'Reilly, and Mark Briscoe picked up the victory over the Iron Savages, which was very confusing to see because the Iron Savages were faces last month. Literally less than a month in between these two matches. We haven't seen them since then. We saw Roderick Strong do commentary for this. I wanted to see more of the Iron Savages the last time they were on television, but it just shouldn't have been like this. Because they flip-flopped heel to, or face to heel like that, no explanation. We saw Toni Storm and Trish Adora. Toni Storm picked up the victory there. I don't really get going from Mina Shirakawa, who was being built up, to Trish Adora, who has 0 wins in AEW. I didn't like the match at all. I know I'm in the minority, and I've said this before. I just don't like this Toni Storm gimmick. It was fine at first, but it's just, to me, it's just dragged on, and it's not what I want to see. After that, we saw Jack Perry pick up the victory over Marco Stunt to retain the TNT Championship. Jack Perry had a promo earlier on about having an open challenge. The Jurassic Express music hit. Jungle Boy looked very confused. Commentaries, what's this? And honestly, I thought it was pretty funny to see Marco Stunt go out there for this. It makes complete sense. Just funny because no way was Marco Stunt beating Jungle Boy. But it makes sense. So, and it's also crazy that Marco Stunt hasn't been in AEW already for 3 years. It doesn't feel like that. After that, Claudio picked up the victory over Black Taurus. I thought this was a good match. I wish we could see more victories for Black Taurus now that he's signed to AEW. So that's really only my one complaint there. We saw Riho pick up the victory over Lady Frost. Serena Deeb cut a promo on Riho beforehand, and she spoke about how she's evolved into the best in-ring woman in that division, which she hasn't had a win over somebody notable since May. And even then, Anna Jay wasn't doing much. And in fact, I think Lady Frost might be the best woman that they have in that division based on what we see from every single time Lady Frost is out there. I'm not taking anything away from Serena Deeb. I think she's great. But the story doesn't really line up with what's going on in ring-wise, what we see on TV. And I know that she's a great wrestler, like I said, but we just don't see it out of her often anymore. And as far as this match goes, something felt off. It didn't feel like the other matches that we've seen Lady Frost in. It came out afterwards that Riho was injured in this match. So that's unfortunate. Maybe that's why the match felt off. Earlier in the night, we saw Christian speak about the Trios Championships. The House of Black also spoke about the patriarchy. And then in the main event, we saw Hangman pick up the victory over Jay White to advance in the Owen Hart Tournament to the finals. Hangman got busted open in this. I have no idea. He clotheslined Jay over the barricade. Somehow ended up gushing blood. It really, that made no sense. I couldn't get past that spot. I rewound that over and over again to see how he got busted open. After he clotheslines Jay over the barricade, you could see him like touching his head. I don't know if he gigged. I don't know if that was the hard way. I don't know what that was. I hate that I just said gigged. I hate that I just said hard way too. But it just made no sense to me. We saw the ref got bumped into. Hangman took off his belt. Jeff Jarrett took it away. Christian showed up and speared Jay White. Hangman was able to get the victory off of that. They repeated the same spot for the finals of the women's tournament, which I'll speak to in a moment. AEW Dynamite opened with Will Ospreay. He was super disgusted with what MJF did to Daniel Garcia last week. And Will Ospreay said that since he's gotten to AEW, he's been cleaning up other people's messes. And he needs to clean up MJF. He called MJF out. His music hit. He didn't come out. Instead, MJF appeared on the Tron and said that he beat all the top guys and Will isn't going to be different. He challenged Will for the International Championship for the 250th episode of Dynamite next week. That gets set up. First match saw Bryan Danielson pick up the victory over Hangman to win the Owen Hart Tournament. He moves on to All In to face Swerve. Jeff Jarrett was the enforcer here, based on what happened the other week. I think Hangman and Bryan Danielson had way better matches in 2021 and 2022. This one, I don't want to say it felt sloppy, but there were points where it was just like off. But Bryan Danielson got busted open during a commercial break. Have no idea how that happened. Hangman ends up pushing Double J. The referee gets hit with a flying knee at one point. Jeff Jarrett, after Hangman goes to use a belt, he's using the belt to beat Bryan Danielson with. Jeff Jarrett gets involved. Hangman pushes him down. And then Jeff Jarrett gets up and reveals a referee shirt underneath. Bryan ends up reversing a choke into a pin to pick up the victory. So I'm glad that Bryan won. Afterwards, Swerve came out. Bryan left during a commercial break. And when they came back, he called himself the best in the world. And he said he's looking forward to facing Bryan Danielson. He brought up the Elite. And he said that he's officially leading Team AEW for Blood and Guts, which the writing was on the wall. I've been speaking about this since June. He was part of that segment. Of course he's going to be part of that match. It made no sense as to why Mark Briscoe was the first person to officially declare for that team. That made no sense last week. But Swerve challenged Okada to a match. That gets set up. I thought this segment went way too long and covered way too many topics. And then later on, Hangman banged on the Elite's locker room. He was interrupted by Okada from being able to get into the locker room. Looked like they were going to have a fight. But the Young Bucks were like, oh no, it's okay, it's okay. What's the deal? He's in. Obviously, Hangman, he's got history with Swerve. He wants Swerve. Where else to go? Blood and Guts. It seemed like all of this was set up perfectly in June. And for whatever reason, they scrapped all those plans and redid everything. After that, Chris Jericho picked up the victory over Samoa Joe in a Calgary Stampede street fight. Samoa Joe cut a promo on Rampage, challenged Chris Jericho to this match. The only creative part of this match that I could think of was the horseshoe spot. It came in a bag like the thumbtacks, and I thought it was clever because they're in the Stampede street fight. But they go backstage. Big Bill gets involved. Brian Keith gets involved. They put Joe on a forklift. And Chris Jericho drives Samoa Joe through newly placed sheetrock in the middle of a hallway. And as if that's like a supposed to be there sort of thing. And that was the end of the match. And Samoa Joe looks like the biggest, weakest baby needing to be rushed to a hospital for going through some dusty drywall. Brand new. Wooden frame, not even painted. Awful. After that, Pac picked up the victory over Claudio, Ishii, and Kyle Fletcher to receive an international championship match. This was fast-paced. For whatever reason, I guess because everything going on with Don Callis and Will Ospreay, I kind of expected Kyle Fletcher to walk out as the winner here. But I'm glad that Pac won. He got a promo afterwards and said that he won't be denied of his Wembley moment. There are so many matches that you would think were going to be happening at Wembley, like MJF versus Ospreay. That seems like it's going to be MJF versus Daniel Garcia now. We also thought Will Ospreay versus Swerve. Obviously, Swerve has Bryan Danielson. I have to assume Pac is going to be facing Will Ospreay. After that, we had Mercedes Moné's second championship celebration. She wanted no interruptions this week. She didn't have any balloons, but she had more security. She used Bret Hart's moniker to refer to herself. And she said she's not facing Britt Baker at All In. But if she did, she'd leave her dead, basically. Britt Baker showed up. She took out the extra security. Mercedes ran off, and that was it. I thought that was a terrible, useless segment. Because everything that they did here was accomplished last week. This did nothing. And Mercedes used the Young Bucks to try and get heat. That's goofy. I don't think she needs to use the Young Bucks to get heat. She makes the heat herself. Main event of Dynamite saw Mariah May pick up the victory over Willow Nightingale to win the Owen Hart Tournament. I pop big time for Willow's gear. I feel like people always go for the pink and black to make a tribute for Owen Hart. She went for the black and yellow Danger gear. I really wish Willow won this match, but I 100% understand why, and I don't mind Mariah May winning this match. During the match, though, someone in a sweatshirt showed up, caused a distraction. It turned out to be Stokely. And then Chris Statlander was able to kick Willow Nightingale. The match continued, and Mariah May rolled through a move to get that victory. I wish the finish of this was stronger, because they did the same exact thing the other night. They did the same exact thing in the opening of this event with Bryan Danielson and Hangman. A roll-up is a roll-up from a move. Same exact finish. So I hated that. And then you cut to after the match, Mariah May and Toni Storm are celebrating. Mariah May grabs the Owen Hart Championship, beats the ever-loving hell out of Toni Storm. She beats the hell out of Luther. Toni Storm gets busted open from that belt. Mariah May, watch the shoe or whatever they say. She starts jabbing it into her forehead. And Toni Storm is gushing blood. She pushed Ref Aubrey down and then rubbed her face in Toni Storm's face in the blood. Apparently this is the exact storyline. Obviously not with the blood and everything, but the storyline is the exact storyline from a 1950s film. So I think that's kind of goofy, but everything that was pulled off in the aftermath of this match, I thought was very much so well done. I just didn't like how it took outside interference and it took a very weak roll-up pin to win this match. Because to me, that makes both matches come off weaker. It makes Willow Nightingale look weaker. So that's the unfortunate parts, but well done on the ending of this episode of Dynamite. That is AEW. Hey, Brandon, got any shout-outs?
Heyo, Kermit the Frog here, and you're listening to Brandon Shoutouts, yay!
That 90s Show is back on Netflix for the first part of season 2. I really hate that they split this season up.
Wait, don't spoil.
And we have to wait until October. You've watched That 90s Show even?
Yeah.
Well, like I said last year, I think they knocked it out of the park with this show. Deborah Jo Rupp, Kurtwood Smith, and Don Stark, I think, are beyond funny, as usual.
They did incredible.
The kids are funny. And if this show doesn't get picked up for 6 or more seasons, I'd be completely shocked. It's so enjoyable. It's such an enjoyable show. So check it out on Netflix. My next shout out is going to Johnny Cash's Songwriter, which was released at the end of last month. It features songs that were written from the 60s all the way to the 90s and recorded in 1993. Some of the songs were released prior, but most of them were shelved. And it's crazy because I think this album is a solid album. Mm-hmm. I really like, there's one song, she sang Sweet Baby James, which I believe includes an interpolation of Sweet Baby James from James Taylor. I think that's the correct term for it, which has me wishing that Johnny Cash did a cover of that. But I think this album, it was unexpected, and I'm glad that it got released. I thought it's a very good album. And then my final shout out goes to the movie If, which is on Paramount Plus now. John Krasinski wrote, directed, produced, and starred in the film, which combines live action and animation. Basically, the girl that plays John Krasinski's daughter discovers that she can see other people's imaginary friends, and she tries to reunite them with the people that, I guess, had them. Mm-hmm. Kind of reminded me of that Christopher Robin movie that came out in 2018, but this is a super stacked cast. It's Ryan Reynolds, Bobby Moynihan as live action, then voices. You have Steve Carell, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Louis Gossett Jr., and so many others have voice roles in this movie. Literally the who's who of people. And it does have some heavy scenes, but I think overall, I thought it was a good movie. Critics were way too harsh on this movie. Sometimes when I read these reviews, I'm like, in what world? Like, are we watching two different films? Like, we're watching a movie. I don't understand where these people are coming up with their reviews from.
Some people just want to hate for the sake of hating.
Yeah, so if you have Paramount Plus, I would check it out. It's just if, short for Imaginary Friend. But those are my shout-outs. Now it's time for our
Mark Out Moment of the Week.
That is right, our Mark Out Moment of the Week. I think 100% Joe Hendry. First of all, popping up at the end of Heatwave.
Yeah.
And then the Rascals and Joe Hendry being on NXT together. How could you not mark out for that?
I totally agree. I marked out for Joe Hendry. I marked out for the Rascals. I marked out for that Chelsea Green spot. I marked out for that Powerbomb spot with Andrade and all of them. Yeah, there was just so many cool spots, I think, over the week that was just enjoyable.
Well, some really big news that you got to mark out for. On Tuesday, Stephanie Vecore wrestled Tessa Blanchard and seemingly did her goodbye bows, which people thought it meant she'd be either signing with AEW or WWE, which most likely, given that she just worked Forbidden Door, people were like, oh, she'll probably be signing with AEW.
Yeah, like she was just on their pay-per-view.
She dropped the New Japan Strong Women's Championship to Mercedes Moné. Come Wednesday, CMLL announced that Stephanie Vecore will be vacating the CMLL World Women's Championship and the CMLL World Women's Tag Team Championships, and will no longer be working with CMLL or New Japan Pro Wrestling. And then more rumors started swirling. CMLL announced a match for Fantastica Mania to crown a new champion that included Willow Nightingale. So that just added to the fuel that, oh, she's 100% clearly not signing with AEW. WWE signed her. And then Shawn Michaels tweeted out welcoming her to the WWE family.
Which was huge.
Absolutely crazy. And outside of Swerve and Ospreay, I think the most talked about person from Forbidden Door was Stephanie Vecore.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't too familiar with her at all until she stepped into this matchup.
She's been in the business for over 15 years now. She's only 31. And it should be very exciting for whatever happens with her on NXT.
I'm going to say, yeah. Something else I marked out for was showing of the faces of the Wyatts. I definitely marked for that.
Well, that is episode 701. Thank you so much for listening. You could check us out on Twitter at Markin Out, at BTTG161 on both platforms. Chris Sweendog, CM Sweeney85, David PTDPT, Facebook.com/MarkinOut. YouTube and Instagram are MarkinOut11. You could check us out on ProWrestlingTees.com/MarkinOut, at MarkinOut on TikTok, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts. I'm sure Audible is up there as well. MarkinOut.com. And we wish you the
best of luck in your future endeavors.